Okay, guys, I think we're live now. If one of you guys want to check in on YouTube and see, welcome. Give me a thumbs up if we're good to go. Live on YouTube. Good to go. All right. Sorry about that, guys. Technical difficulties, but here we are. Session one of Boots Off with Johnson Crook. It's a little lifestyle blog or vlog that we're getting going just to, fill you guys in on what we do with our downtime, bring you into our personal lives. And so tonight is going to be, as advertised, wine tasting with Johnson Crook and our friend Stephanie Mooney. Without further ado, let's bring Steph to the show. Ta-da!
Hello.
All right, like magic. Here we go. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I was starting to sweat. Technical difficulties.
I was just drinking in the background.
Oh, must be nice. I don't want to ruin this the routine for myself, so I'll hold off for a minute. But okay, I've known you. I don't even know how long, but you've been a friend of the band's since 2015. You came with us as a friend and camping buddy for our first ever Boots and Hearts appearance.
That was awesome.
The Emerging Artist Contest, and then we stayed for the whole weekend and got to see everybody perform. So why don't you let everybody know? Why don't you let everybody know we're doing a wine tasting now? You work at St. Michael's Hospital in Toronto, right. Frontline healthcare professional and whatnot. So thank you for that. And how do you go from there to your closing in on getting your sommelier certification?
It's a long, winding road. I guess we live in close proximity to Niagara, so I think. Growing up, every once in a while, I'd go and do some Niagara trips with my parents, but never was really interested in it. And then in 2013, I moved to America, and I spent 9 years living in the States. And coming home to visit my family was kind of like a big deal. And especially in the summer times, we would go to the wineries, and it became kind of our thing and our way to kind of connect with the family after not seeing each other for, a few months. My parents had this ambition to try to hit every single winery in Niagara, but they kept adding more and more. So we still haven't mastered that feat yet.
Yeah.
So it was just a nice way, to see them. That's really how I got more interested in wine. And then flash forward a few years working in Toronto, I had time to do a hobby. I was looking for something to do in my downtime. And then a good friend of mine, we actually were traveling back from Newfoundland, stopped in Quebec City, and we won a trip to Bordeaux, France. Actually, she won the trip and she dragged me along with her. I'm very thankful for that because Bordeaux is one of the best wine regions in the world. And so we thought, well, damn, we better start studying wine because we didn't want to waste this opportunity. We wanted to at least know something about what we were experiencing in Bordeaux. So we started attending class at George Brown College. There's a Wines 1, if anybody's interested. And it was just a great primer. But what nobody tells you is as soon as you start wine school, there's no stopping. So you get more interested, you get sucked in. I think somebody told me once, the more you do wine school, the less money you'll spend on wine, which is a complete and utter fabrication. What really happens is you're spending more on wine, but you're spending more on better quality wine, better value wine. And so from there, after Wines 1, I pursued I thought I should get a certification. So there's something called Wine, Spirits, and Education Trust. It's an organization out of the UK. So wine and spirits and a little bit of beer and sake as well. And so I got my second level designation and then third level designation. And the third level designation is almost equivalent to a certified sommelier minus the service side. So I thought if I already had the knowledge and wanted to continue to drink and learn more, I thought it just was a natural fit to start pursuing my certification as a master sommelier, in the Court of Master Sommeliers, my certified sommelier designation. So I was taking class throughout the fall. And then COVID hit, and I'm supposed to write my exam in June in Buffalo, and that's not going to happen. So we've pushed it to August, and we'll see what happens from there.
Well, hopefully this session is a little bit of good practice for you. And it's actually cool. We're going to be announcing some things maybe a little later on in the episode, but we're going to be doing more of these. And it's not just going to be wine. It's going to be everything that we're all into, but there will be more wine. And so getting to that, you and I got a chance to chat about this a little bit earlier, but let's get the rest of the guys on here. They're patiently standing by, and we'll start inching our way close to actually drinking some. So one by one, ladies and gentlemen, Noel Johnson.
What up?
Trevor Crook.
Oh my God.
Trevor. What a
And Nathan.
Hey, Farmer boy.
Right on.
Fantastic. You guys.
So
What are you doing, Nathan? I can hear you stirring.
the sauce sounds good.
The sauce sounds bubbly.
Before we go too much further, just want to let people know, if you have any questions or comments that you'd like Steph to answer, you can put them in, you can type in the comments and we'll get them and we'll be able to answer them live in real time. So I will lead off. So wine is like as deep as the ocean. You could get really technical and nerdy and, spend hours and hours on very small details. So first things first, tonight we're going to be tasting a red wine and a white wine. And we bought them in the LCBO, our local liquor store here in Ontario. And why did you pick these wines? Like, I think one was $15, one was 17 or $18. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So like you mentioned, wine is super complex and people tend to get very intimidated, especially walking into the liquor store, looking over all the labels, not knowing what to drink. So I wanted to pick two wines that were really approachable in price and in terms of taste and flavor. So sometimes wines can be one spectrum to the other in terms of, sweetness, acidity, alcohol, things like that. So I picked Pinot Gris and Merlot because they were kind of central in the range of wines. I guess for my own sake, these are two wines that I have difficulty with blind tasting. So it's good practice for me as well.
Right on. So let me just pull these up here. So the white wine that we have going on is this, and this is in the Johnson Crook Insta stories too, is the Matahiwi Estate New Zealand Pinot Noir, or Pinot Gris. And the Merlot is Santa Carolina Reserva Merlot 2017. So I know over the past couple of years, you've really helped us dial in buying wine at the LCBO. So like, how about, these bottles aren't that expensive, but are there good deals to be had, like cheap, or do you have to spend $100 on a bottle to get something fancy?
I say there's a time and a place for everything. So if you want to have your, 4 liters of Boda box, then have at it. That's great for a long weekend with friends. There's nothing wrong with that. I love that those types of wines, those bulk wines. I joke I have my dinner and impressing my friends wine, and then I have my 1 a.m., 2 a.m. wines, which you don't want to be drinking your, $30, $40, $50 bottles at 1 a.m. after having, a certain number of glasses, because you're not going to taste it. You're not going to appreciate it. So I think there's a time and a place for the range of values. What I can say is that I can give you guys a few tips on how to find a better value wine versus stuff that you may be more comfortable shopping at the LCBO with labels that you may recognize that you buy over and over again. And I think that has a lot to do with the labels and marketing of wine. And it's really confusing and overwhelming for people. So in the States, there can be anything like 100,000 different wines that are labels, different wines that are introduced into the market every year. So there's no way anybody's going to be able to remember all of those different wines. And so people are going to tend to go with what they know and maybe what their parents drink, maybe what their friends has given them. And people don't tend to explore a lot. So there's a couple of ways you can look at a label of wine to determine if this possibly is going to be something that's good value. And there's three basic things on the label. So there's labels can contain the region that they're from. They can contain the type of grape with a variety of grape, or labels can be like a fantasy fun name. So for example, what we're drinking today, I'll pull the Matahiwi. If you look on the bottle really closely, here we go. So we have Pinot Gris. It says 2009. So we've got grape, we've got year, and then it says Wairarapa, New Zealand, which is a very distinctive region of New Zealand. If it just said New Zealand, that means you can get the grapes technically anywhere from New Zealand. But since it have a specific region, that means it's going to be better quality. So the more specific the region, generally the better quality wine you can expect. So that, go ahead.
Oh, so the more details on the label,
yeah. So you're not looking for the pretty picture, although
that's what I go for. I always go for the pretty picture.
So I did recently. I bought this one from Megalomaniac. They had a whole series of wines for healthcare workers. And,
nice.
Yeah, that totally swayed me. But on this bottle, for example, you can see it just has a fancy name. It says "Much Obliged." It's got a picture, but you don't see a year. You don't see. It doesn't say Niagara on it. It doesn't say anything like that. So that wine, we can assume, because it doesn't give the type of grape, that it's a blend. So usually blends are kind of a mixture of maybe not the best quality grapes, but there's consistent over time. And they don't list year because, maybe it's a blend of a few years together. So that's the three basic things to look for. And what about regions? So I don't have any bottles here that have specific regions, but if you think of something like Chianti, or actually, no, I do have one here. This bottle right here, Rioja. So Rioja, it doesn't tell you what the grape is. The grape is Tempranillo. Rioja is a region. So certain wines that are labeled by region. So Chianti, Rioja, Bordeaux, that's also a designation of quality. And the trick with those ones is you have to know the grapes that are made in those regions, because typically they don't list the grapes on the bottle. So that's a little bit of Google searching that you'll have to do.
Right on. So is there what's a good deal price range for you, going through the LCBO?
So I've stopped really buying my $9 bottles.
Nothing wrong with the $9 bottles, though, especially in this time of.
Especially at 1 in the morning, $9 bottles are great. Especially when you have friends over that don't really care what you're serving them.
Yeah.
But more often,
you want your friends to leave. Just give them a $9 bottle.
So generally, I tend to spend. I'm looking for the $15 to $20 price range. And a lot of people are surprised. You can find those in the general wine selection, but I shop a lot in the vintages section. And some people are afraid to go in vintages, but vintages has some great deals. Like I picked up 3 bottles today that were under $20. A 17, a 15, I think one was a 19.
Right.
And I'm looking for those. I'm looking for the year. I'm looking for a very specific wine region. We can talk about it a little later at the end, but I'm looking, when I'm going to give you my value regions, I'm looking for wines that are maybe not super common, but maybe different, or a region that we don't recognize, because those wines tend to be a little bit cheaper because everybody's going to buy the Cabernet Sauvignon from California. Those will be more expensive. So I'm looking for things that are a little off, neighboring regions, or different types of grapes.
Right on. Getting back to the cheaper price point wine, and I know you can have blends at any level, but we had one question come in: can blends be more consistent over time, I guess, in quality and flavor kind of thing?
Sure. There's a great example of a blend where the winemaker's goal is to make it the exact same every single year, and that's champagne. You'll generally so champagne is made with Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and another grape called Petit Meunier or Pinot Meunier, and it's a combination of both. And the whole region that they will only declare a vintage in a very, very exceptional year. So 2008 vintage or 2012. But mostly Chardonnay, they want it to taste champagne, they want it to taste the exact same every single year. So when you buy, your very specific Veuve Clicquot, you know exactly what you're getting.
Oh, right on. One other thing, I guess, that comes in with that blends made me think of. Can you tell everybody what the MOG is, or what a MOG is?
I'm sorry I told you that. So there's an acronym in wine called MOG or MOGs, and it means material other than grapes. So when you're buying your $2 wine in the States or your $8 wine in Canada, you're buying the wine based on the quality of how it's made. So more expensive wines have better quality. Maybe it's hand harvesting. Maybe it's hand sorting at the table. That brings the price point up. Maybe it's a better region of land. For the cheaper wines, you're using machine harvesting. So tractors are going through, knocking all the grapes down. They may just dump everything into a big vat and tank, and nobody's going through and picking things out. So material other than grapes is exactly what it means. It could be, leaves, insects,
Leaves,
birds, frogs. that all eventually gets filtered out, but
yeah. Where's that on the label?
it doesn't. It's on the label when it says $7 bottle.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. Next question. Is Coors Light a good palate cleanser?
That's a new one for me.
I know Trevor's thinking it.
Why not? The things that are absolutely.
I don't drink Coors Light.
What are you talking about? Summer tour comes and that's all you drink.
Bud Light. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay. Sophistication. All right.
There's things that are absolutely not palate cleansers, like coffee and toothpaste. I think I mentioned to you guys, like, you don't drink coffee a few hours before tasting wine because that taste lingers on your mouth, and brushing your teeth just kind of ruins all the taste. So you don't want to be doing things like that.
What about smelling it?
Smelling it?
Like coffee, like how sometimes they give you like coffee beans?
Great point. Absolutely. So coffee beans, on the other hand, so you're not eating them, but you're smelling, and that smell resets your nose. In school, sometimes you're smelling so much and your nose gets tired. So sometimes I'll smell my arm just to reset my nose.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but coffee beans, fantastic.
Just not drinking it. Got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, our friend Kevin's on fire with good questions. We were talking about this earlier too. So can you make wine out of the grapes from the grocery store?
Absolutely not. Oh, well, I guess you could. It just wouldn't taste very good. Wine, grapes wine comes from a very specific type of grape. It's only one varietal from Europe called Vitis vinifera. That's the Latin term for it. And all major wine is kind of descended from that one type of grape. And then you can have hybrids and clones and things like that. But the grapes themselves are smaller than the Concord grapes that we have in grape juice that you can buy at the grocery store. So they're smaller, they're sweeter. So if you were to walk through the vineyards during harvest season and start picking some grapes off the vine, they're so much sweeter than what you would get at the grocery store. Really? And they all have seeds inside as well. And the skins are thicker, which means they can stand up to staying on the vine longer, to ripen longer.
So if you have we're going to have a Merlot here in a minute. If you eat a Merlot grape, does it taste like the similar flavors of a Merlot wine?
No, you're just really going to get the sweetness and maybe some of the acidity as well.
But if you take any fruit and put it in the tank of a toilet for a few weeks, you'll get liquor.
You need more of a closed system, but yeah, you can ferment anything, and that's a good point. You can't
just be sure to put the lid down.
Yeah,
Is that real?
You can't make wine legally. You can't make wine from other fruits, but there are fruits that can make wine-like drinks. There's plum wine and berry wine, and I've heard of banana as well, but legally you can't call it wine.
Yeah,
dandelion wine.
Dandelion wine.
Yeah.
Well, there's just one other tip, I guess. I think like a purchasing tip when you're in the store. If you go to the liquor store and the wine you wanted isn't there, and you're forced to try something else, you're like, man, how do I know if I'm going to like this? Is it going to be close? I've never heard of this before. What are some clues on the label that you might like the wine that you're about to pick up? As far as alcohol level, sweet versus not sweet and things like that.
So great point. So two things. Number one, we are very fortunate at the LCBO in Ontario to have wine specialists, sometimes sommeliers, who work in many of the wine stores.
At every wine store. Did you guys know this? I never knew that there's a sommelier on staff or a wine expert on staff at every LCBO.
Really?
You usually
Maybe in Toronto.
they're wearing like the
Yeah, not in Peterborough where you are, Nate. You don't get too many wine exports growing out there, hey?
no usually
Well, I wouldn't say that.
Probably is.
usually it's the guys who are buying the wine for the store. So there's throughout they're stocking the shelves, they're working, but they're wearing darker shelves, and women as well. And if I don't know what I want, I'll walk up to them and say, "Hey, what's good? You know, today we just got a new shipment. Every 2 weeks at the LCBO, you get new shipments." And I walk through vintages, and I just ask this guy, "What is he like?" Right now, they're not tasting a lot, obviously because of COVID. So there used to be big tastings that they would do every 2 weeks, and that's kind of stopped right now. But asking their opinion is a great start. Asking them what types of, if you know you like a Cabernet Sauvignon, but you want something different, you can say, "This is what I like. I don't want something that's super, light. I want a big, bold red," and they'll steer you in that direction. So that's one way to do it, with somebody. But if you're on your own, the best thing to do for me, honestly, there's a couple of wine books that I own. And these wine books will give you kind of the grapes that you like, and then they'll offer alternate suggestions. I could show you one if you want, especially for what we're drinking today. So let's see. So the book is, here we go, Wine Folly. And it's a great intro wine book. And they have these really interesting pages here. There's the Merlot page. Oops, there we go.
Yeah.
It's hard to do this.
Noel, you could turn Sam into an expert. She showed me this book earlier, and it looks a little bit like a children's book. There's a lot of cartoony sort of graphics. So you can be like, "Sam, Merlot tastes like plums and bananas and tobacco leather."
He doesn't
trust me. The flavors. And here we go. At the bottom, right here, it tells you the alternate grapes that you might like. So for Merlot, you would like Cabernet Sauvignon, Malbec, something called Petit Verdot, Montepulciano, Valpolicella. Those have the same flavor characteristics, the same level of acidity, alcohol, so they're all similar in characters. So that's another resource that I use all the time to figure out, trying new things.
I did notice one thing the other day when I was at the LCBO that maybe everybody knows this, and I just realized it. But vintages doesn't mean expensive.
No.
Which is something that I came to realize. I was like, oh, you can buy a very nice $14 bottle vintage that isn't so expensive.
Yeah, it just means smaller batch.
Yeah,
right?
Which I had no idea. I was like, oh, I'm not going to go to the vintages. I don't want to spend $200 on a bottle of wine. And then you go in there and you're like, oh, what? So I asked somebody at the store, and maybe they were sommelier. I'm not too sure, but I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I tend to mostly shop in the vintages because that's where you're going to get your better value wines, honestly. Like the wines that maybe from interesting parts of the world that you're not used to drinking, and they'll all be stocked in that region.
Yeah, super cool.
All right, well, without further ado, should we get to drinking some wine? I'm going terribly dry here, and I don't want anybody else to suffer anymore.
All right.
Who's been drinking already?
I haven't. Nothing. Not even a drop. I did have one. We're gonna start with Merlot.
We are going to start. We're going to go through both of them side by side, and then when we get to tasting, we're going to start tasting the white first. And then,
I have a question: are you supposed to open it before and let it breathe? Is that a thing?
Yeah. Why don't you open? Why don't you guys pour your wines in a glass right now? So don't pour like a full glass before you pour. Just I want you to pour like
to the brim. To the brim.
No.
Like a finger. Like a finger.
3 ounces. I want enough so you can swirl it and get some good swirling going on.
Not much?
Yeah, that's good. Better.
It's all right. Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
And then do the same for the white.
Okay.
I don't have the white, unfortunately.
I couldn't find the white.
All right. I'm going to bring Candace over here now.
Yes, Suzanne.
We've been eagerly waiting this portion of this.
So that's why I'll do both wines side by side. Hey, Candace.
I've been sorting puzzle pieces.
Hello.
Hello.
So everybody's here for the drinking part, guys.
I put on makeup for the first time in weeks.
Woo! Let's get drunk.
Pouring both, eh?
Yeah, so pour both and let them, and we'll talk. It's going to be a little excruciating because we're going to be looking and smelling a little bit longer than tasting. So you're going to want to drink it, but I'll urge you to wait for a second.
Okay.
Does it sound delicious? Is there a sound factor here? We are musicians after all.
I almost forgot to pour mine.
Nathan, have you been wearing overalls and nothing else this whole time?
Yeah.
Like this whole month.
This whole month.
Do you have a?
Should
Yeah,
wash
Actually, I turned these ones into shorter alls, really.
it.
Steph, do you have a tip to pouring wine?
Don't spill it.
No, but some people
People
pour at the end.
worse
Is that a thing?
Yeah, like if you want to be fancy and if you're serving somebody and you don't want to drip on a nice white tablecloth, at the end you can, just when you're lifting it up, you're twisting the bottle at the same time as you're lifting so it catches the drips.
You shouldn't lick the bottle at the end. That's normally what I do. But,
I mean, if you're drinking it by yourself, it's perfect.
okay, cool. Yeah,
But
I was getting crap for that.
in COVID times, you might want to refrain from licking.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
Don't lick your hand, Trevor.
So what we're going to do first is there's 4 really, really basic steps to drinking wine and tasting it and evaluating if it's a good quality or not. And we can wait for Nathan to find a glass.
Well, I mean, I didn't find the white wine, so I'm just gonna get my own white wine to get it going.
No, absolutely, that's a great idea. So the 4 things that you're going to talk about are looking at the wine.
We're doing the Pinot first,
The white,
right?
yeah.
The white.
Yeah, the white.
Yeah, we're gonna look at both of them at the same time.
Okay.
So we're going to look at the wine. We're going to smell the wine. Then we're going to
look at
taste the wine.
You look at it.
Look at it. And then at the end, we're going to think about everything that we've experienced. So the first stage is looking. And looking, you are looking for a few things. You're looking for the color. You're looking at how intense the color is. I'll go through that in a second. And then you're looking at, if you've heard the term tears or legs before, we'll talk about that in a second.
So
Yes.
that's like the how fast it runs down the side, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Viscosity a big word for that?
There's viscosity. Yeah, that's your big word of the night. I got a bigger word for you later, so hold on.
Okay, good.
So right now, let's. Who has a piece of white paper beside them? I think I asked.
Yeah.
You had white
I got
paper.
Yes.
So it's kind of hard because it's dark here, and usually it's better if you're under natural light, but we'll work with what we have. So take your piece of white paper, and you're going to want to hold the wine at like a 45-degree angle over the paper, and then you can really, here we go. You can start to see the color a little bit better than holding it.
Right.
Now it's a little different. Like white tends to be, you're looking for 3 colors. You're looking for something called straw, which is very, very light, maybe water-like, maybe with a hint of green notes. And there's yellow, and then there's gold. Gold you can really tell is a darker hue. So I don't know if you guys want to give a stab at what color you think this white is.
I think I'm seeing either gold or straw.
I would say straw.
They seem pretty similar in the color.
You see, so straw would be almost water-like, like almost clear, maybe with some green.
Oh, okay. So I'm seeing more gold then, for sure.
Yeah. I would say, especially with Pinot Gris, this one is like a yellow, almost a light gold for me. And the one thing that's you might not be able to pick up, and it depends on your lighting, I almost get a bit of a pinky hint to it. It's really so. The pinky hint is a tell that this is possibly a Pinot Gris, because Pinot Gris is red grapes. So the juice is white, but the grapes are red. So if a little bit of the grape skin gets caught when you're making the wine, it gives it maybe a slightly pinky hue.
Cool.
So that's looking, and then you look at intensity. Intensity for white's kind of hard to tell. You know, is it light? Is it medium? Is it deep? You know, I tend to say medium for a lot of things, unless it's really super obvious deep. Like I think a Chardonnay would be like a deep gold color.
I'm at such a disadvantage here. The walls in my apartment are yellow in this room, so it's like
use your white paper.
You need a white paper.
right. I got it.
No, and then tilt your glass down so you can look through the wine.
See, Nathan can
You
help.
pour it on the paper and then lick the paper. That's how you do it.
I thought you made a funnel out of it.
Okay, so
Oh,
so
no.
next step, smell. Yeah.
No, we're gonna look at the red one now. See, this is the appreciating part. We're not drinking yet. We're looking.
Okay, pre-drink.
I have a confession, Steph.
You've already drank.
No, well, yes, no, but I couldn't find the Merlot, so I did buy the same Reserva, but I bought the Cab Sav. So I'm gonna let you guys do all the talking first.
That's going to be a great comparison when we start to get to flavors.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, we'll talk about it, but I'm not quite there yet. You guys do your red first.
But no, I want you to look at. So have you poured your red yet?
I did. I put the 3 ounces.
All right. So get your white paper again, and now we're gonna.
Oh, it's right here.
Here we go.
Oh,
Now
check
we're
that
gonna
out. Check it.
Check it.
look at the color.
So what are we looking for?
So red.
Wow.
Red. You're
I
looking
mean red.
for 3 distinct colors. Does it
Mhm.
have? Is it red with a bluish hinge, so like a purple? Is it just red, kind of ruby red, like a nice berry, raspberry, like berry, or is it red with like a brownish hint? So we call it like brick or garnet.
I think the first one with the blue.
A hint of purple.
Yeah,
I'm saying hint of the
the brown.
maybe?
I'm with you on brick.
Brick. Yeah, that's what I'm
brick,
getting.
I'll give you a hint. A brick is like an actual like. You can tell if I were to hold this one beside something that's garnet or brick color, you would look at that. It took me a while to actually find a brick color wine, and it tends to be like Northern Italian red wines, and they're super obviously red. This I don't think this.
Ruby red. We were all wrong. It's the middle one.
I would say it's
the purple one.
I would say it's ruby, but there's a hint of purplish. It's hard to tell under these lights. You have to be under like supernatural light, but it's hard to tell. But there's one more thing I want you to do for red. So take your white paper and just sign your name. Pick a part on the paper and sign your name. All right, hold up your signature. Okay.
Wrong.
In behind the pictures.
Gotcha.
So now I want you to take your red glass and hold it against your signature and tell me if you can see your signature through the
Through the
color.
wine portion?
Yeah, you tilt your wine at a 45 angle. There we go.
Kind of.
Yeah,
Kind of.
tilt your one like this.
A little bit.
But it's really hard. Like I can't see mine.
No, I can't really see it either.
Okay, so that's called intensity of the color. So for red, say it was a Pinot Noir. Pinot Noirs are really lightly pigmented. And if I were to tilt the glass of a Pinot Noir, I could be able to read my name through that glass. If you can just see it a little bit, then it's kind of a medium intensity. If you can't see anything, it's a deep intensity. Another thing to do is look from the top of the glass, look straight down, and can you see the stem if you look straight down in your glass?
No.
Not at all.
Really.
So this could be a medium or a deep intensity.
Okay. That's interesting. I always thought that Pinot Noirs would be the most intense just because Noir, black.
Because the name?
Yeah.
No, it's actually the lightest one.
Weird.
So okay, so that's your
Red grape making white wine, Noir being the lightest red. Like, what is this? What's going on here?
so
It's just the word, Jared. It's going to be okay.
we've got your color down. So we've got your color, we've got your intensity, but now we want to look at what your viscosity, as Candace so sweetly interjected. So you're going to look for. It's hard to tell again in the light, but I want to give your wine like a swirl and start to see if you can see kind of like these little tears or legs. It might be easier to do with the red, actually. So try it with the red.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I see. They're kind of like lines in it, almost like swirl lines.
Yeah, and then the
It
red.
almost looks like oil residue.
Yeah. So what that is you're putting the liquid around the glass. The alcohol evaporates quickly, and everything that's left over kind of pools and forms these legs. And what you can tell sometimes by looking at the legs, it's a good indicator of how much alcohol is in the wine, or you're even tasting it. So if there's a lot of tears or legs coming down, it potentially is a higher alcohol wine. So
Okay.
this one, I'm looking at it right now.
Got a lot.
Look at my tears.
Okay, they're coming. You know, I got a couple. They're looking pretty good. So I would.
Got a few.
It's like a medium, potentially a medium alcohol, medium plus. But you'd have to know over years of all the different types. But so that's one indicator. And then the viscosity is how quickly, if you tilt your glass up and down, is how quickly the liquid falls up and down the glass.
White shirt.
Yeah, white shirt, red wine. Tip and
so think of the difference. Think of water versus maple syrup, or like an ice wine, or really something thick and syrupy. So water tends to come down. This has a little bit of, like, it doesn't come down as fast as water. So again, you can tell there might be a little residual sugar in this. If we were to have like an ice wine beside us, it would just, you could tell it's really syrupy and it would take a lot of time to come down the glass.
Mm-hmm.
So that's looking. Now we're on to smelling. So
much closer to tasting.
I told you it's going to be annoying. So
I love it.
For those that have the white,
this is the part where it's going to be interesting. Yeah, I'm interested to see what your white smells like.
Okay, so with the white, don't start smelling it. You can like hold your glass a little away from your face, and then take little smells, and see how close before you can actually smell something. Like for me, I'm not quite in there, but
we play that game on tour together all the time. How close we can get before we smell something.
So that you're looking at intensity. So there's some wines out there where if I'm holding the glass far away, I can smell that wine from far away. And that gives you a hint of maybe what type of grape it is in terms of intensity. So, and you always want to smell your wine before you drink it, especially before you're serving it to friends or drinking it for yourself, because you want to smell for faults as well. So there's a fun tip that if a wine is faulted, if you think it's faulted, we can return it to the LCBO free of charge without a receipt, because you're not really buying your wine from anywhere else in Ontario. So since I've been in wine school, I've actually returned a couple of bottles. You don't want to drink the full bottle and then return it. Usually they don't on that. But if you like drink a glass and you're smelling it and you're like, this wine's gone bad, you could return it and get the same value wine, same wine or something different for the same price.
So like, and what are those smells again? Like,
so
the
one
inside of a turtle tank?
Yeah, there's one really simple one, and this one doesn't have it. So there's one called corked. So about 3% of the wines that have a cork in them there's like some chlorine that could be left over on the cork, and that could affect the wine. And it tends to smell like wet dog or like musty basement or wet mortar. Yeah, it's like really. You can
now here's the part where there's
Yeah.
actually a technical term for this that Stephanie's too shy to say on to the internet at large. This is called cork taint.
Cork taint? Ah!
Oh God, you guys.
No likes it.
I was waiting for the
That's true.
boy
I've heard that before.
So that's one of the major ones is cork taint. It can smell.
So, since we're talking about the cork for a second, Kevin had a question. Do you get a noticeable difference between natural, like real cork or a synthetic cork? And will you be less likely to have the tainted cork if it is synthetic? Do you find that?
Yeah, that's one of the whole reasons why they started producing the synthetic. Number one, it's sustainable. Suzanne, I'm sure you can tell us where most of the corks in the world come from.
Portugal.
Portugal is exactly right. So eventually we're going to
drink my wine.
Not yet. Not yet. But yeah, synthetic corks are. It's a winery, because the winery loses money every time. If we return something to the LCBO is going to return it back to that winery. They lose money on it. So if they have a whole bunch of wines being returned to them because they have some, bad stuff going on with their corks, it's not good for business. So synthetic corks, but like New Zealand, for example, screw tops. People used to look down on screw tops, thinking that it's not good quality wine. You can't age wine with screw tops, and science is starting to show that you can.
Awesome.
Right on. So,
New Zealand.
Yeah. So back to smelling. Sorry.
Okay. So I want you guys, the goal is to try to get 5 to 6 different unique smells out of the glass, which may be hard. And the fun thing about smelling is your nose can recognize 40,000 different scents. The problem is your brain can only understand like 1,000 at the most. So you may be smelling things that you don't recognize, and that's why you see a lot of people who are in wine are going to farmers markets and just picking up fruit and smelling things constantly. you're licking rocks or smelling fresh tennis balls or garden hose. Like you're trying to smell all these unique flavors to try to.
Is it called that? Oh, sorry. Is it like training your palate? Is that what it's doing?
Yeah, you're training your nose.
Okay.
Your brain. Sorry, your nose knows. You're training your brain to catch up with your nose. Your nose knows.
Oh, I see.
I smell grapefruit.
Who's going?
So yeah, start yelling out some flavors that you're getting.
Yeah, I definitely smell some grapefruit or something citrus in there.
Yeah.
So citrus for sure. Yep.
Maybe like something like peachy, like a little like smooth or.
Exactly. So we look at the different fruits. For whites, you're looking for tree fruit. Tree fruit is anything grown on a tree. So apples, pears. You can also have nectarines, peaches, apricots. Then you have citrus in whites. So whites can also be grapefruit, lemon, lime. And then there's tropical. You're also looking for mangoes, pineapples, things like that. So I heard pineapple.
I'm getting a bit of the pear smell too.
Pear is perfect. Yep.
So when they make the wine, do they add this fruit in for the flavor, or is that?
No, this is everything to do with the grape. So
wow.
You're not actually smelling strawberries. Strawberries have compounds in them that produce similar smells. And when you're making the wine, sometimes, it's a specific grape. And if you look in certain wine books, it will tell you that all Merlots should have this flavor. So I know for Pinot Gris tend to have peaches. They tend to have pears, lime, lemon, and then there's some secondary flavors that you might get, and that might be from the winemaking technique or how long the grape was left on the vine. So I'm getting flowers. Are there any flowers? I'm getting like a honeysuckle.
Yeah, I get honey.
Right? So they're not putting honey in this. That's just all the attributes of the grape.
Is it because the grape is grown near these things?
No.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, it is wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can really get scents from a grape that have nothing to do with grapes.
Yeah, and then there's other things that impart flavor or smells on wine, and it's how the wine is made. So wine stored in oak barrels, so the wood tends to add smells or flavors to the wine. So for French oak, you tend to get like vanilla or spices. With American oak, it could be coconut and dill. So
ew.
Yeah.
I don't want dill in my wine.
So I don't smell many oak. When we get to the red, Trevor's waiting patiently. When we get to the red, maybe we'll smell something. But I'm getting like you're gonna laugh at me, like a rock, like a mineral.
Here, smell mine, Trevor.
Yeah.
Woo, okay.
Don't spill wine on your lap.
Okay.
That was close.
Let's put Trevor in. Let's get some red going.
All right.
So what's red again? Remember the same thing. So you're starting with intensity. How far away? So I can smell mine a little farther away. It's a little bit more intense.
Yeah.
Versus like your nose right in it.
I find I could smell it like from this far away, but then when I got closer, I couldn't smell it, and then I could smell it again closer. Is that supposed to happen?
No, it's just maybe that your nose just didn't pick something up. But
I think you should go talk to your doctor about that, Trevor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or nice breeze in your house.
Yeah.
And so with red, you're obviously looking for different flavors than the white. So we're looking for berries, red fruit. This is dark fruit. So red fruit, blue fruit, black fruit are the major.
Hawaiian punch sort of smell.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I smell like hickory or like
juice box.
tobacco.
Tobacco, that fantastic point. So tobacco for sure is in Merlot. That's a characteristic of Merlot. And that
just a reminder, we are doing the Santa Carolina Merlot right now. Just we had somebody asking there.
I think
we're doing this one for red and Matai.
Matawa, I like saying this one. Matahiwi
Estate, New Zealand Pinot Grigio. There it is. That's what we're up to right now. If you're just tuning in.
Yes.
Somebody asked just real quick, Stephanie. Somebody asked just a second ago about what's good for food to pair with the white.
Oh, the white.
Yeah, what's a good food pairing?
So there's a saying in wine: what grows together goes together. And so if you kind of know what region, so this is New Zealand. It's from like the northern island of New Zealand. White, you tend to want to do with like whiter meats or fish. So yeah, fish. We haven't drank it yet because there's a characteristic of this that I would match to like scallops or something almost creamy. But you'd want to do like a chicken or a white fish, like a sole or a halibut, something with a little bit of texture. Or even I would even do like some scallops with this.
Sweet. I think when we go to post this permanently on YouTube, it won't live forever on Facebook. When we post this permanently on YouTube, we'll tag some recipes in the caption. People can jump on and find something good to make with this.
Sure. All right, let's finish our song so we can get to the drinking part. All right, so what did anybody get any berries, like red fruit, dark fruit?
I'm getting a bit of a blueberry or something like that. I'm also getting a bit of like an earthy sort of smell to it.
I smell almost like a choke cherry, like a dry
blackberry or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm getting like blackberry, black cherry. I'm also getting a plum. Plum's really hard for me to tell sometimes, but I think there's some other flavors that are almost kind of competing with the fruits, and so tobacco, like a sweet tobacco cigar box kind of smell.
Yeah, I'm getting smoky.
Yeah,
there's, can you smell any vanilla? So vanilla is also a sign of oak, whether this has been in an oak barrel. Or it's like
would that be a line itself with a smoky sort of scent? Aroma is it's pretty consistent with an oak barrel.
Yeah, so you can get smokiness out of oak. You can get vanilla. You can get baking spices like nutmeg or cinnamon.
Got it.
As well. What about dark chocolate?
Yeah, definitely getting a little bit of that. But like you said, I am getting competing sort of scents with it too, which is kind of it's kind of distracting. It's not a very clear sort of thing I'm smelling here.
So there's a nicer way of saying that. It's called complex.
Complex. No, it's confusing.
So many words.
So it's easier, like sometimes it's easier for white or reds. It's easier to pick out a lot of different flavors and scents. And just off the bat, I think we've already got over 6 or 7 different things that we're pulling out. So this is, I'd call this a complex wine, which is a marker of quality as well.
Okay.
We're ready to drink, guys.
Yeah.
Woo.
Woo.
Cheers.
So wait, don't drink yet. Don't drink yet.
Spit it out.
I haven't.
I want you to start with the whites. So start with the Pinot Gris.
All right, I'll wait.
And you could wait. Yeah, Trevor's going to have to wait. So start with the Pinot Gris, but do you think, so when you drink the wine, what do you think you're trying to get out of your taste? So what do you think you are going to be able to taste when you're drinking it?
Some of the things we smelled?
Yeah, some of the things, some of this definitely a little bit of citrus for sure.
Yeah. And is your tongue going to be able to determine the taste? So what I'm trying to get at is, what is your tongue able to sense?
It'll tell me that it's a white. I could do a blind taste test and know it's a white.
We were taught this, I think, in like elementary school or high school.
Body.
So there's 5 different things.
Dry, smooth. Are those them?
Sweet, salty, acid.
So it's sweet, salty, sour, and bitter. And there's a 5th one called, it's a Japanese term called umami.
Umami, yeah.
And umami is like mushrooms or MSG or kind of cheese or
all the rage on the cooking shows right now.
Yeah.
Umami. They're talking about it on the Food Network nonstop. And that's what I'm doing during COVID quarantine, watching the Food Network.
Nathan, we're about to drink the whites.
Oh, awesome. Sorry, I had technical difficulties there for a second.
That's okay.
Cheers.
So the whole point is when you're drinking, you're not going to be able to pick out the peaches and the pears on your tongue. It's actually your nose working in the back of your throat. That's
okay. I'm definitely getting that. 'Cause, if you kind of, as soon as it hits the back of your throat, you sort of lose all those.
Yeah.
Only when the glass is to your nose and you're drinking do you get all that effect at the same time.
Yeah, and there's a trick that you can do. So you you can take a sip and swish it around and then swallow, and then you breathe in and then breathe out slowly through your nose to see if you can pick up some other flavors through your nose that way.
I definitely taste the peach. Like
And that's your big word. So Candace, your big word is called retronasal olfaction.
retronasal olfaction.
And that's your nose working in the back of your throat.
Cool.
That's where you get those other smells.
My nose hair trimmer broke, so I'm
You're blocked, yeah.
blocked.
So let's get to what we're actually. So when you're drinking the wine, sure, you're tasting the flavors, but you're trying to figure out a few more things. So it's the structure of the wine is what you're looking for, and it's the back of how the wine's made. So we're looking for, is the wine sweet versus dry? So we can start with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely on the sweeter side.
Sweet.
Okay.
What makes it taste drier, Stephanie?
What if I told you sweetness is how the wine finishes and not how it starts when it hits your tongue?
I
Makes
would
sense.
say dry.
So yeah.
The bite at the back of your tongue, right?
Yeah.
So this is a dry wine. So you're fooled at the beginning.
Yeah.
Coat in your mouth and it feels sweet. But this one I checked, this is actually 8 grams per liter of sugar. And a dry wine is considered anything from 1 to 17 grams per liter. So this is right in the middle of the dry range.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Delicious. Very good pick, Stephanie. I'm not a huge fan of whites, but I will definitely buy this again.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's totally crushable. Yeah, absolutely. So
I was
the
just saying crushable.
Crush a little bit more. You can
so the
We'll have
next
a
thing,
great crushing episode.
Yeah.
the next thing you want to find out is acid. And I've done this party trick with Jared before, so he knows what's up. But what I want you to do is take a big gulp of wine in your mouth, swish it around like mouthwash, swallow it, and then hang your head a little bit and try to feel all of the water that's forming underneath your tongue.
See if you might dribble out of your mouth a little bit.
You swallow first, though, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
What did you say there, Noel?
I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm not feeling anything.
So if you like swish around and then you're hanging, like I'm in danger of having like saliva form going like out of my mouth.
Yeah, like your mouth fills.
And that's acid. So
You feel it in your cheeks too, eh? Like in your cheekbones.
yeah, like
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying now.
When you eat sour candies,
It's like
Yeah.
milder than sour candies.
Very
Or
loud.
vitamin C.
Yeah, for sure. But I definitely see what you mean, that acidity in your mouth.
all right, and there's one more thing that we're going to try with this, and then we're going to bring Trevor in for the red. So alcohol. You can actually try to guess. You can actually really get good at guessing how much alcohol this wine is because it's the burn on the back of your throat. So again, take it, swish it around like mouthwash, swallow it, and see if you can feel that burn on the back of your throat.
I have to get more.
not a lot of burn, I don't think.
Not like a whiskey. There's something, right? You can feel
There
something.
is a bit of a burn, though. So
I mean,
I'd say
I'd say it's 13%.
All wines are like
13%.
I think you're exactly right, Noel. Yeah, and this is actually high for, a white wine. It's from New Zealand. It's from a cool region of New Zealand, but they've made it in a French style, and it's 13.5. Sometimes so wine on the label laws can actually be a percentage higher or lower than what's on the label. So if you're drinking something that says 13, you're like
Trixie devils.
more. Yeah.
So I'm gonna drink a little more.
Just because somebody says it's crushable doesn't mean.
yeah.
All right. Who's ready for the red?
All right.
Trevor sure is.
Trevor's ready.
Poor
So Trevor-
Trevor.
Trevor, we're gonna have you do this entire tasting by yourself then.
All right, I'll do it with the bottle then.
Just
Oh, great.
so the first thing is when you're tasting, you want to taste sweet versus dry, then acid. We'll do that sequence.
Okay.
So is it sweet or dry?
I would say it's on the sweeter side to me.
How does it finish? So not the first taste, but
Dry at the end.
either right. Yeah. So it's a dry one.
Mhm.
And this This one's 6 grams per liter. So the white was 8 grams per liter of sugar. This one's 6, even less.
Oh,
So
it's
drier
even
wine
less.
are lower calorie?
The less sugar, the less calories. Yeah.
Woo!
Good to know.
Candace got so happy.
Bravo.
All right. Do you want to try? You want to try the acid trick? So swish around the mouthwash, swallow it, and then tilt your head.
Yeah, about the same as the last one, I'd say. Maybe a bit more.
It makes me salivate quite a bit underneath my tongue.
Yeah, there's definitely some acid here. I would say it's medium acid for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So that
And I'm definitely getting the same complexity though with this one that I got while smelling too, even afterwards, which is kind of funny because it's the white that we did. You didn't get the same taste that you got with the scent kind of thing. Where I'm getting similarities of the scent and the taste. What's that called?
So again, that's just the flavor profile that you're getting from your palate. But again, it's your nose working in your throat. So you're smelling, sometimes you're pulling out different flavors when you're drinking it than you are when you're smelling it. Like for me, I'm getting less of the fruit. I'm getting more of the tobacco.
Yeah,
I'm
me
tasting it, more of like the earthiness or some
Minerality almost, right?
spices. Yeah.
Yeah,
This-
getting more spice, a little less berry.
I like how dry it is.
Mhm.
Well, that's awesome.
So there's two quick things that we didn't talk about, and we can do this in 30 seconds. Tannins. Tannins are the drying effect that a red wine has on your mouth. You don't really have tannins in white wine, so that's why we didn't talk about it. But take it again, swish it around your mouth, and you feel like your mouth puckering or like your lips sticking to your teeth or the top of the roof of your mouth drying. That's tannins.
It's like the same as like when you eat a choke cherry.
What's a tannin, Stephanie?
Do tannins give you a worse hangover? Is that true?
No, absolutely not.
Oh, okay.
High sugar gives you a hangover. So tannins are actually the only thing that's good for you in wine. Tannins are antioxidants. So this is why they say drink more red wine.
Sugar and antioxidants for the
So
win.
what are tannins again?
So tannins are tannins come from the skin of the grapes. Tannins come from like the seeds and from the stems, and tannins also come from the oak barrels.
And that's the only part that's good for you. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's 80% water.
What? Oh, okay. Cool.
So, water and tannins tend to.
Hey.
And this is, I'd call this medium tannins. It's not like my lips aren't like super sticking to my teeth, but I can feel it. It's kind of smooth.
Yeah.
I like
I'll
it.
say with the Cab Sav, it's got a lot more tannins than your Merlot.
Yeah. So that's a good point. Thanks. So the Cab Sav, you're definitely going to have a little bit more tannins. Are there any different flavors that you got in the Cab Sav that maybe we weren't saying in the Merlot?
Yeah, so it's got a more of a rich berry kind of smell to it, and I would say it's probably drier than the Merlot, and it's got a lot of tannins, at least in terms of the way my tongue feels right now.
Yeah. I'm going to throw a flavor at you and see if you can pick it out. Can you get green pepper?
Right
Actually,
on.
even try the Merlot.
There's definitely a little bit of green pepper. It's more like any unripe kind of vegetable or fruit, right? Like that green taste, almost like the green stem taste.
There you go. Perfect. So
Amazing.
Merlot, especially Cabernet Sauvignon, tends to have a little bit more green pepper, mint in it. Sometimes there's mint.
Yeah.
Was it just me or because you said green pepper, all of a sudden I started green pepper?
You can get green pepper in Merlot for sure. It's also the part suggestion, right?
I just wanted
mind game.
I just wanted to put in there. I think
It's also confusing.
Complex.
Confusing.
Complex.
if it was easy, everybody would drink it.
I think they all do.
And so I think alcohol is about the same. Alcohol is a little bit more. You can feel just a little bit more burning in the back of this
That's
one.
more.
Right?
Yeah.
So this one was 13.5.
Yeah, there's so is the Cab Sav.
Yeah, a little bit higher in alcohol. Was that a 13.5? Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last thing you want to do is think about it. So did you like what you drank? That's the most important thing. Would you drink it again? Would you buy it again?
Yes.
I like that. Thank you for the recommendations, and
just before we go.
Yeah.
It is the season of rosé. If there's one $15 to $20 bottle of rosé you would recommend that kind of drinks like a red but is refreshing like a white, what would it be?
If I'm going to pick, so Ontario has some really good rosés that are coming out right now, if you want to stick with Ontario. So there's a place called 30 Bench, has some great rosés. One I just bought that's sitting beside me right now. It just so happens to be Vivant Rosé from Malboire, and that's about the price range you were thinking of.
They do Ladybug too, right?
Yeah, they do Ladybug. So this is the different version than Ladybug.
Okay.
Yeah.
No way, rosé.
No.
Yeah. I just wanted to give a little shout out right now. I think we had somebody from the Matahiwi Estate Winery join us here, Fleur Nicole. So thanks for making a great wine. It was delicious, and we learned a lot about it tonight.
Cheers.
I'm not holding the right one, but cheers.
Yeah. Actually, Steph, one more thing we were going to talk about is normally you go from white to red and you don't go back and forth, but you said you might be able to bring out other flavors going back and forth a little bit.
For those that still have some white left, go back and smell it. Does it smell a little different? Can you pull out anything different? Sometimes I take the red and then I'll go back and smell
You ever
it.
notice a bit of a cat piss smell when you switch back to white? For real.
Wrong grape, but it's also
No,
growing.
no, smell it.
Maybe
Sauvignon,
it's a cat.
Yeah.
Would it be like an ammonia? Is that the scent?
so Sauvignon Blanc tends to have it's called cat pee or asparagus to it, and that's
Man,
very.
I'm glad we're not drinking that.
It's surprisingly good if you
It's a
don't think
good time.
You don't think about it too hard.
It's all about the stank.
That's awesome.
So that concludes your tasting for this evening.
Well, thank you so much, Steph. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Steph.
So, so can we get a vote?
Hey, good to see you.
What approve?
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10 for both here.
I would actually give the white a 15 out of 10. I really like that one.
Yeah.
And that was this one.
Maybe.
Would buy both of them again. So also, before we all sign off, like I said at the beginning, this isn't just going to be about wine. Boots Off with Johnson Crook. We're just going to have group hangs and chats like this to talk about all sorts of cool stuff. And I think Nathan might be the next one to kind of host an episode a little bit, dealing with some house plants and gardening kind of thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're gonna start it off next week. My wife and I'll come. We'll talk about just some basic houseplant stuff, like how to water your houseplants and how to plant some seeds, and then we'll get out the garden in the next couple of weeks here.
These guys have taught me, Nathan and his wife Brandy have taught me a lot about how to get baby plants off of plants and then make more plants.
Mhm.
I just thought that they just
Us
grew
too.
until they died, and that's how you do it. But apparently,
It's called propagation. Propagation.
more words,
words.
more big words to learn.
Yeah, we'll have a
Right
lot
here on Boots Off with Johnson Crook. Let's give a big shout out to Beretta Farms, who
Beretta Farms.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
the video here.
Give a shout out, Fiona.
Jared's got some beef jerky from them. If you check out the little photo we posted, if you go to BerettaFarms.com and get the promo code Beretta10, you'll get 10% off any of your food orders. They have amazing meats, and they sponsored our music video, and it was insanely delicious. So I suggest you checking that out too. But we'll be back with more experts.
Beyond.
You can match that really well with this wine.
Oh, there you go, beef jerky and Merlot.
Cheers to
There we
that.
go.
Yeah.
Where was that at Boots and Hearts when you were there with us? Eh?
Yeah.
Pairing our beef jerky with Merlot. Who
Right
knew?
on. Well, yeah. So
so much.
it's been awesome. This is great. So we're gonna get better and better at hosting these things, and stay tuned for some music. Yeah, it's great hanging out with you guys. How much fun!
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. Thanks for joining us. That was so much fun.
Thanks, Steph.
Thanks, Steph.
We will be back.
Yeah, good to see everybody.
Good to see you guys. Take care. Till next time.
All right. Good night,
Bye.
guys.
Bye.
right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.